All right, so what we're going to do is take a look at really creating some camera VFX, uh, animating our background and sound. I'm thinking about making this the last video for this week. So I'm going to make this a little bit longer. And then next week will be sort of our final. So we'll just kind of knock out the rest of the project. So let's start off by creating a script. And inside of this, we'll go ahead and create a model behavior script. I'm going to name this camera VFX. And this is where I'm going to put all of my VFX from my camera. And let's go ahead and drag and drop this on top of our main camera once it's done loading. So let's select our main camera here and then either drag it on here, or you can click on add component here and you could type in camera and then just select VFX here. I'm also going to grab it and just drop it inside of my writer here so that I can start scripting this. I'm going to hit Control D on each one, Control L rather. Control D duplicates it. Control L and just get rid of these comments. At this point, we already know what these two methods do. We've coded a lot of these. Now, what my initial thing I'd like to do is when we get a hit or whatever, do a little bit of a camera shake, which is a really classic game design mechanic just to sort of emphasize that something is happening in a game. All right, I went ahead and just created these two variables just to save time. So you can pause the video now and type these out. But the first variable is just how long do I want it to shake. So I have it essentially set for 1 second. And then the shake magnitude could be called magnitude or amount. And it's just how much I want the camera to shake. And these are both serialized fields, so we can adjust them inside of the scene. The next thing I want to do is create another variable that's really just going to set where the initial position of my shake is going to happen. And it's really just going to be on the camera itself. So let me go ahead and type that code out. And I'm also going to initialize the position inside of here. All right, so what's happening now is we created this variable called initial position. And initial position is equal to whatever the transform.position is, which is 0, 1, and -10 of my camera. Because again, this script is attached to my camera itself. And you can see down here that my shake duration and shake magnitude have been populated in my scene with these two values. Now, what I'd like to do is just create a method. So I'm going to take this void update method here, and I'm going to mark it as public, and I'm just going to call this play. And you can call this play VFX or play shake or whatever for the camera shake. And really what this is going to do is just going to play all of our VFX when it happens. So you might even want to, if you have a specific camera effect, like it blurs out the screen or it fades out or whatever, you could do it inside of here. So we could name this, I'll just leave it as play, but you can name it play VFX if you want. And we've done these before, but I would like to create do the same thing before to play with time. And I love to use I enumerators for this stuff. So I'm just going to start typing out I, and then it's a capital E, enumerator. And this is going to be where we actually control the shake. And if you had any other sort of VFX, you could name it camera fade or whatever. And then in order to use an I enumerator, which remember, we use this for running methods continuously or running parts of code for set periods of time. We always do that inside of a start coroutine here. And within that, we just grab the name shake here. And we'll just paste that in there. And we got to remember to put our semicolon here. So what's going to happen is whenever we call this public method, remember to make it public, called play, it's going to start my coroutine, which is my shake here. Now we're getting an error here because we're not telling it how long we'd like this to run. All right, so I'm not done writing out this line, but as I was typing this out, I wanted to sort of make sure that I didn't get too far ahead of myself, and then I'll pause the video and type out the rest. But what we have here is our transform.position. So what we're saying is once we start this coroutine, we're going to grab the position of our camera, and we're going to take a look at whatever initial position is, which is our starting position here. But we're going to add that to this built-in Unity code or method, and we're going to do a random inside unit circle. So what this is doing is projecting, imagine a circle of 1. It's like a unit circles by default 1, and the X and Y around this camera. And what it's going to do is give us a random value between that. And then what we could do is we could say, okay, well, how much do we want to multiply that by to control the amount of that camera is being controlled or shaked? So we can grab our shake magnitude here and we can multiply that. And this will be how far we want to control the essentially the amount of that position around that camera. Now, something to point out is this inside unit circle, if I highlight over it, let's see if I can, it's looking at the X and Y axis. And the reason why we're getting a little bit of an error on this line is because what we're doing is we're essentially adding a vector 3, which is this X, Y, and Z, to a vector 2. So the way that you get around that is you can cast this to a vector 2, or sorry, to a vector 3 rather. And what this does is this takes this, it adds like the third property there, which is the Z, and just kind of makes it 0. So this is casting, which we've done before in other, essentially, I'm going to put this on another line just because I know some of you use smaller monitors, so it kind of gives you a little bit easier on your eyes. But casting before can change the data type of a variable or change the data type of something else to, like, for example, if I wanted to make this transform.position a vector 2 instead of a vector 3, I could cast that if I save it off to a variable. All right, so I created a variable just called the elapsed time, which is equal to 0. So you could think of this as the starting point of a timer or a stopwatch. It starts at 0, and then we're going to add to it over time. And as long as elapsed time is less than shake duration, which we have here as 1, so less than 1 second, we're just going to keep moving that position of our camera. And then what we need to essentially do later is we need to go in here and we need to reset its position back to the, essentially these 0, 1, and -10. Now, if you get an error and you're still wondering, like, why isn't it registering this? It just doesn't know what wake for ender frames is. And we need to add using systems.collections.generic or using systems.collection. So what I did is I hit control and period here, and that cleared out that error. Now let's take a look at where we're going to call our play method. So what I'm going to do is every time, because remember we have this ship health script here, and this is really controlling, like when we get damage or we collide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of variables up here that are going to interact with our camera VFX script. All right, so I went ahead and created just a Boolean value that's going to check whether we want to apply our camera shake or not. And then what we need to do is we need to, from our scene, get our camera VFX. Now, our main camera itself has a built-in sort of tag here, which is just main camera. And what's nice about this is because Unity already knows that we're going to need to interact with the camera a lot, and they have an easy way of doing it instead of find all objects of type or the other ones that we've done in the past. What we could do on the wake is we could just say camera VFX equals camera.name .get component camera VFX, and this will grab this camera VFX script that is located on our camera here. So after our play hit effect happens, which is our particle from our last one, let's go ahead and just add a method called camera shake. And apply camera shake's actually not bad, but just camera shake here. And then I'm going to hit control and period, and I'm just going to let it create that method for me right here. All right, so let's take a look at this method that we wrote up. So we have this camera shake method, which is being called here. If our camera VFX is not equal to null, that means that we're able to find it in our scene using this get component. And let's see, where's that at? Right here. And we have apply camera shake turned on. So let's go into our player here and find our ship health. Because remember, we are in the ship health script, and we're just going to turn on apply camera shake because that's just going to shake with our player, not with our enemies. And let's go into our enemy ship and just make sure that on ship health here, it is off. We want to call this camera VFX.play, which is here. And that's what starts this coroutine. And then we have elapsed time, and then we reset the elapsed time by saying plus equals elapsed time times time of delta time. So it's always adding up. And then we call this, let's save this and let's press play and see when they hit us, if it applies a camera shake. There we go. How cool is that? Looks a little bit crazy. And it looks like the elapsed time, let's see, elapsed time equals 0. It just keeps shaking, which is crazy. Okay, let's see how we can fix that. And actually, I wonder if, let's select our main camera here. It's just too long. So shake duration, if we make this 0.2, oh, honestly, where's my brain at? So if you look at this method here, what we're doing is we're saying elapsed time plus equals elapsed time times time dot delta time. So this is just exponentially growing the time. We don't want that. We just want elapsed time plus equals time dot delta time. So this will turn this into a timer where it's always counting up. So that should, let's make this back to shake duration to, well, let's make that 0.5, and then we'll actually take shake magnitude down to 0.2. Maybe it's a little bit too much shake. So let's try that. There we go. It's a little bit better. It doesn't hit as hard. And then if you have bigger, like, shapes and stuff that hit harder, then we'll, we'll essentially, like we can adjust these in code, based on the character or the type of bomb that hits the character. We're already at 11 minutes. I think, to be honest with you, this took a little bit longer than I thought. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and tackle the other ones in the next lesson.